Man, those were some dark episodes of TV. We're talking Andor Season 2, Episodes 7, 8, and 9 on today's video. Full spoilers, of course. I don't really know how I'm going to do this. Like, Andor is not a show for YouTubers to talk about. Yeah, I could mention that K2SO's backstory previously established in a comic was retconned, or that Melshi was back. Hey, he's in Rogue One, but really, who cares? You know, like many of you guys, I've got cell phone brain, so often when I'm watching a show or hockey, whatever, I'm distracted in doing something else. Not with Andor. These 3 episodes, especially the first 2, kept me locked in. The 8th episode of the season, featuring the Gorman Massacre in particular, was dreadful. It was terrible, but in a good way. Obviously, we've known it was coming, but it was very different to see it actually spiral, to see the point where there was no turning back, where all the things fell into place for the Empire, and Gorman and its people were about to be ground into dust. One of my favorite aspects of this episode was seeing how a thing sort of thought about in the abstract would actually play out. Both Luthen and the Rebellion and the ISB have had their idea of what would and should happen on Gorman. Hell, Dedra is the one who really helped develop the plan. But when it comes time to, as the Imperial says, pull the trigger, when all the people in the courtyard are standing up and looking at you, well, things get more difficult. And really, in this show, there are degrees of evil, and I think that's one of the points. Dedra is evil. She's a self-serving authoritarian, but she's still got a shred of humanity in her, a shred of humanity, reminding her that what she is doing is so far beyond wrong. And I love the look in her eyes as things are starting to go down. Even further down the spectrum, you've got Partagaz or Krennic, people who will do the massacre or far worse without batting an eye, or you have, in my opinion, one of the most purely evil characters we've seen, the Imperial Fixer. There's something about this guy. You know, it's one thing to see Krennic or Tarkin or everyone else order these terrible things and then they happen, but this guy, he sets up everything. He starts stirring the pot by putting the barricades up. He creates an accelerating factor by sending those green troopers out, and then he orders the sort of false flag, and he does not seem bothered by this at all. He's a bad dude, to put it lightly. But maybe the most interesting character examined on this spectrum was Cyril Karn. I've got so many thoughts about this character. He's so well written and so interesting. And I was really wondering sort of what his deal would be going into this week. I wish I had done a video about it now in hindsight, because we have to look at Cyril's motivating factors. Someone like Krennic, for example, wants power for power's sake. Dedra, probably pretty similar, but Cyril has always been motivated by law and order. What sort of law and order is there in fermenting a rebellion, essentially forcing people into action and then killing them mercilessly? I was really unsure exactly how much he knew, but in this episode we got confirmation. Cyril was not fully aware of the plan. He was creating a honeypot for the rebellion, or so he thought, but when he realizes the truly objectively horrible shit he's been a part of, he starts to fall apart. You know, the Empire has been for him this guiding light, this symbol of order. Yes, sometimes they're harsh, but generally he believed the Empire was the best path towards stability in the galaxy, and that was all thrown into doubt. But even with that in his face, he still has that beef with Cassian, which I guess is fair. I mean, that goes beyond Cassian's rebel duties and goes back to his initial attack on the people at Morlana. So yeah, just a phenomenally interesting character. He does have redeeming qualities. It's not all black and white, just like Luthen and Saw and even Mon Mothma are not just good. Or like how Cyril's mother, yeah, she's terrible, but at the end, she's humanized as we see her mourn the loss of her son. The actual massacre itself was incredibly visceral. It was emotional. It's really insane what Star Wars managed to do without blood or any real gore. The KX droids coming out was also just awful, awful stuff. I think this has to be my favorite episode of the series so far. I really like the Gorman people. I like how their chants turned from English anti-imperial rhetoric to obviously a chant of their native language. I thought that was really powerful. And yeah, throughout the entire time, just a mounting sense of dread. At first, I thought Cyril was going to try to hijack one of the TV cameras and reveal the secrets. I'm so glad he didn't do that. You know, Andor does a pretty good job of keeping, you know, a sense of groundedness to the universe. At the end of it all, Cyril was just a small man wrapped up in things who, like a lot of people, was used and spit out. And that's, I think, why it's so appropriate at the end of it all. The last thing Cassian says to him is, "Who are you?" The show also did a great job of reminding us just how damn terrifying TIE fighters can be. There were lots of other great details. I like how the bellhop remembered him, but I do briefly want to talk about the other two episodes as well. I really liked the Force healing lady. I don't know what it was about her, but I just felt like she captured the spirit of Star Wars in a really cool way. There was just something new about her in a way that reminded me of every time back when watching the original trilogy, you'd learn something new about the Force. I just thought she was very well handled. Cassian and Bix's relationship, pretty heartbreaking end. I don't know if Bix will be in the show anymore. Obviously, we don't know anything at all really about the final arc. I don't know if we've seen any footage at all from it. Obviously, we're getting a lot more of the rebellion. We saw Draven, who of course is in Rogue One. We saw the Yavin base being set up, which I loved. Everywhere Cassian goes, he gets such a sick pad. Then, of course, episode 9, Welcome to the Rebellion. We see Mon Mothma give her speech to the Senate. I like this. I thought the Gorman Massacre episode was better. I thought Mon Mothma's escape was maybe a little too easy, given that they knew where she was going to be. They could have sent troops up there, but not really a big deal. The intrigue and the different spies and rebel factions was a very nice touch. Obviously, we get the tie into Star Wars Rebels, where Cassian is doing the extraction, but it's going to be Gold Squadron and the Ghost Crew who bring her into Yavin. We're seeing more and more that Luthen has not embraced sort of the main rebel group. Not that there's like a dislike. It seems like Cassian and Mon and others want him to go to Yavin. I just don't think his psyche allows him to. The same way Saw's psyche wouldn't allow him to. So it's gotta be the greater rebellion who gets the credit for Mon Mothma, because she's a symbol. She's going to be a symbol galaxy-wide. It is a little funny how her speech is all about taking truth back, and already the rebels are sort of propagandizing her escape. But yeah, an excellent few episodes. This show is so good. I really do think this show could have been, you know, instead of 2 seasons, maybe 3. I understand, you know, that may not have been possible from a budget perspective. They may never have gotten it done, so I'm very thankful that we are getting it, but I'm so sad it's almost over. We've got 1 week of Andor left, and that's it forever. Those are my thoughts. See you next time.